Bukkyo, The Buddha's Teaching by Eihei Dogen. From Shobogenzo, The Treasury of the True Dharma Eye. The realization of the truth of the Buddhas is the Buddha's teaching, because Buddhist patriarchs perform it for the benefit of Buddhist patriarchs. The teachings authentically transmitted for the benefit of the teaching. This is the turning of the wheel of Dharma. Inside the eye of this wheel of Dharma, the teaching causes Buddhist patriarchs to be realized and causes Buddhist patriarchs to enter parinirvana. Those Buddhist patriarchs, without fail, possess manifestation in a single atom and possess nirvana in a single atom. They possess manifestation through the whole universe and possess nirvana through the whole universe. They possess manifestation in a single instant and possess manifestation through the ocean of abundant kalpas. Yet their manifestation in one atom at one instant is utterly without incomplete virtue, and their manifestation through the whole universe, through the ocean of abundant kalpas, is never an effort to make up a deficiency. For this reason, we never say that Buddhas who realize the truth in the morning and then pass into nirvana in the evening are lacking in virtue. If we say that one day is of meagre virtue, then the human span of 80 years is not long. And when we compare the human span of 80 years with 10 kalpas or 20 kalpas, it may be like the relation between one day and 80 years. The virtue of this Buddha and of that Buddha may be indistinguishable. When we take the virtue which belongs to a lifetime of long kalpas and the virtue in 80 years and try to compare them, we might be unable to arrive at even doubt. For this reason, the Buddha's teaching is just teaching a Buddha. It is the perfectly realized virtue of a Buddhist patriarch. It is not true that the Buddhas are high and wide, while the Dharma teaching is narrow and small. Remember, when Buddha is big, the teaching is big, and when Buddha is small, the teaching is small. So remember, Buddha and the teaching are beyond measures of big and small. They are beyond such properties as good, bad, and indifferent. And they are not for self-teaching or for the teaching of others. Some fellow has said, Old man Shakyamuni, besides expounding the teaching and the sutras throughout his life, also authentically transmitted to Mahakasyapa the Dharma of the One Mind, which is the supreme vehicle and this transmission has passed from rightful successor to rightful successor. So, the teaching is opportunistic, idle discussion, but the mind is the essential true reality. This authentically transmitted one mind is called the separate transmission outside the teachings. It is not to be likened to discussion of the 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching. Because the one mind is the supreme vehicle, we speak of direct pointing into the human heart and seeing the nature and becoming Buddha. This expression is never read about the everyday conduct of the Buddha Dharma. It lacks the vigorous road of getting the body free, and it has no dignified behavior throughout the body. Fellows like this, even hundreds or thousands of years ago, were proclaiming themselves to be leading authorities. But we should know that, if they had such talk as this, they neither clarified nor penetrated the Buddha's Dharma and the Buddha's truth. Why not? Because of not knowing Buddha, not knowing the teaching, not knowing the mind, not knowing inside, and not knowing outside. This not knowing is due to never having heard the Buddha Dharma. Now they talk of the Buddhas without knowing what their substance and details are, and without ever studying even the borders of the Buddha's going and coming. That being so, they do not deserve to be called the Buddha's disciples. The reason they say that Buddhas authentically transmit only the one mind, without authentically transmitting the Buddha's teaching, is that they do not know the Buddha Dharma. Not knowing the one mind as the Buddha's teaching, and not hearing the Buddha's teaching as the one mind. They say that there is the Buddha's teaching outside of the one mind. Their one mind never having become the one mind. They say that there is a one mind outside of the Buddha's teachings. It may be that their Buddha teachings have never become the Buddha's teaching, although they have transmitted and received the fallacy of a separate transmission outside the teachings, because they have never known, inside and outside, the logic of their words is not consistent. How could the Buddhist patriarchs who received the one-to-one transmission of the Buddha's right Dharma eye treasury fail to receive the one-to-one transmission of the Buddha's teaching? Still more, why would old man Shakyamuni have instituted teachings and methods that could have no place in the everyday conduct of Buddhists? Old man Shakyamuni intended already to create teachings and methods to be transmitted one to one. What Buddhist patriarch would wish to destroy them? Therefore, the meaning of the one mind which is the supreme vehicle is just the 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching, and is just the Mahayana treasury and the Hinayana treasury. Remember, because the Buddha's mind means the Buddha's eye, a broken wooden dipper, all dharmas and the triple world. Therefore, it is the mountains, the oceans and national lands, the sun, the moon, and the stars. The Buddha's teaching means myriad phenomena and accumulated things. The meaning of outside is this concrete place having arrived. The authentic transmission is authentically transmitted from a self to a self, and so within the authentic transmission there is self. The authentic transmission is authentically transmitted from the one mind to the one mind, and so in the authentic transmission there must be the one mind. The one mind, which is the supreme vehicle, is soil, stones, sand, and pebbles. Because soil, stones, sand, and pebbles are the one mind. Soil, stones, sand, and pebbles are soil, stones, sand, and pebbles. If we speak of the authentic transmission of the one mind, which is the supreme vehicle, it should be like this. But the fellows who speak of a separate transmission outside the teachings have never known this meaning. Therefore, do not, through belief in the fallacy of a separate transmission outside the teachings, misunderstand the Buddha's teaching. If it were as those fellows say, might it be possible to speak of the teaching as a separate transmission outside the mind? If we spoke of a separate transmission outside the mind, not a single phrase nor half a verse could be transmitted. If we do not speak of a separate transmission outside the mind, we should never speak of a separate transmission outside the teachings. Mahakasyapa is already the rightful successor of Shakyamuni, is owner of the teaching of the Dharma treasury, and having received the authentic transmission of the right Dharma eye treasury, he is the keeper of the Buddha's state of truth. To say, on the contrary, that he need not have received the authentic transmission of the Buddha's teaching may be one-sided and limited learning of the truth. Remember, when one phrase is authentically transmitted, the authentic transmission of the whole Dharma takes place. When one phrase is authentically transmitted, there is the transmission of mountains and the transmission of waters, and it is impossible to depart from the transmission at this concrete place. Shakyamuni's right Dharma eye treasury and supreme state of Bodhi were authentically transmitted only to Mahakasyapa. They were not authentically transmitted to other disciples. The authentic transmission is inevitably Mahakasyapa. For this reason, in the past and present, every individual who learns the true reality of the Buddha Dharma, when deciding upon teaching and learning which have come from the past, inevitably investigates them under the Buddhist patriarchs. We do not seek the decision under anyone else. Unless we have obtained the right decision of the Buddhist patriarchs, our decision is not yet the right decision. If we hope to determine whether the teachings that we rely upon are right or not, we should determine it under the Buddhist patriarchs. The reason is that the original owners of the whole wheel of Dharma are the Buddhist patriarchs. Only the Buddhist patriarchs, having clarified and authentically transmitted the expression existence, the expression non-existence, the expression emptiness, and the expression matter, are past Buddha and present Buddha. Haryo, on one occasion, is asked by a monk, the patriarch's intention and the intention of the teachings, are they the same or are they different? The master says, hens when cold perch in trees, ducks when cold enter the water. Learning these words in practice, we should meet with the ancestral patriarchs of Buddhism, and we should see and hear the teachings and methods of Buddhism. The present asking about the patriarch's intention and the intention of the teachings is asking whether the patriarch's intention and the patriarch's intention are the same or different. The present assertion that hens when cold perch in trees, ducks when cold enter the water, expresses sameness and difference, but not the sameness and difference which is at the mercy of the perceptions of people who hold views on sameness and difference. Thus, because Haryo is beyond discussion of sameness and difference, he might be saying, it is the same difference. Therefore, he seems to be saying, do not ask about sameness and difference. Gensa, on one occasion, is asked by a monk, the 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching being unnecessary, just what is the ancestral master's intention in coming from the West? The master says, the 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching completely being unnecessary. The monk's question here, the 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching being unnecessary, just what is the ancestral master's intention in coming from the West, as commonly understood, says that the 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching are individual branches of a forked road, and asks whether the ancestral master's intention in coming from the West might exist elsewhere. The common understanding does not recognize that the 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching are the ancestral master's intention in coming from the West itself. How much less could it know that the aggregate of 84,000 Dharma gates is just the ancestral master's intention in coming from the West? Let us now investigate why the 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching are unnecessary. When, if ever, they are necessary, what kind of criteria do they contain? Where the 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching are unnecessary is learning in practice of the ancestral master's intention in coming from the West realized. The appearance of this monk's question might not be for nothing. Gensa says, the 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching completely being unnecessary. This expression is the wheel of Dharma. We should investigate the fact that where this wheel of Dharma turns, the Buddha's teaching exists as the Buddha's teaching. The point is that the 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching are the wheel of Dharma of the Buddhist patriarchs. It turns at times and places in which there are Buddhist patriarchs, and it turns at times and places in which there are no Buddhist patriarchs. It turns the same before a patriarch and after a patriarch. Further, it has the virtue of turning a Buddhist patriarch. Just at the moment of the ancestral master's intention in coming from the West, this wheel of Dharma is completely beyond necessity. That it is completely unnecessary means neither that we do not use it, nor that it is worn out. It is simply that this wheel of Dharma at this time is turning the wheel of complete non-necessity. We do not deny the existence of the 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching. We should glimpse the moment of their complete non-necessity. Because they are complete non-necessity, they are the 3 vehicles and 12 divisions of the teaching. They are not 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching. For this reason, we express them as the 3 vehicles and 12 divisions of the teaching. To quote one from among innumerable examples of those 3 vehicles and 12 divisions of the teaching, it is as follows. The 3 vehicles. First, the vehicle of the Shravaka, who attains the way of Bodhi through the 4 truths. The 4 truths are the truth of suffering, the truth of accumulation, the truth of cessation, and the truth of the way. Hearing these and practicing these, Shravakas traverse and attain release from birth, aging, sickness, and death, and they realize the ultimate parinirvana. The assertion that, in the practice of these four truths, suffering and accumulation are secular, while cessation in the way are paramount, is the view and opinion of teachers of commentaries. Providing that the four truths are practiced in accordance with the Buddha Dharma, the four truths are each of Buddhas alone, together with Buddhas. The four truths are each the Dharma abiding in the place of the Dharma. The four truths are each real form, and the four truths are each the Buddha nature. For this reason, they are utterly beyond discussion of being without the nature, non-becoming, and so forth, because the four truths are each completely beyond necessity. Second, the vehicle of the Pratyeka Buddha, who attains parinirvana through 12-fold dependent origination. 12-fold dependent origination means 1. Ignorance, 2. Action, 3. Consciousness, 4. Name and form, 5. The 6 senses, 6. Contact, 7. Feeling, 8. Love, 9. Taking, 10. Coming into existence, 11. Birth, 12. Aging and death. While practicing these 12 causes, causing dependent origination to occur in the past, present, and future, we take causes one by one, and though not discussing a subject who reflects, or an object that is reflected, we investigate them in practice, at which time they are the turning of the wheel of complete non-necessity, and they are causes as complete non-necessity. Remember, if ignorance is the one mind, then action, consciousness, and so on are also the one mind. If ignorance is cessation, then action, consciousness, and so on are also cessation. If ignorance is nirvana, then action, consciousness, and so on are also nirvana. Because appearance is also disappearance, we make such assertions as these. Even ignorance is a word that speaks. Consciousness, name and form, and so on, are also like this. Remember, ignorance, action, and so on are I have an axe and would like to live with you on this mountain. Ignorance, action, consciousness, and so on are, when I set out, I received the Master's permission, and now I would like to receive the axe. Third, the vehicle of the Bodhisattva, who accomplishes Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi through the teaching, practice, and experience of the 6 paramitas. The meaning of this accomplishing is beyond becoming, beyond non-becoming, beyond initiation, beyond new creation, beyond old age creation, beyond original practice, and beyond non-doing. It is just to accomplish Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. The 6 paramitas means Dana Paramita, Shila Paramita, Shanti Paramita, Virya Paramita, Dhyana Paramita, and Prajna Paramita. Each of these is the supreme state of Bodhi, and it is beyond discussion of non-birth and non-becoming. We do not always see Dana as the first and Prajna as the last. A sutra says, a keen-witted bodhisattva can see Prajna as the first and Dana as the last. A dull-witted bodhisattva only sees Dana as the first and Prajna as the last. At the same time, Kshanti might also be the first, and Dhyana might also be first. There might be 36 realizations of the paramitas, from each trap, a trap being realized. The meaning of paramita is the far shore having arrived. The far shore is beyond the semblance or trace of coming or going, but its arrival is realized. Arrival is the universe. Do not think that practice leads to the far shore. Practice exists on the far shore. Therefore, if we are practicing, the far shore has arrived, because this practice invariably is equipped with the power of realization of the entire universe. The 12 divisions of the teaching, the sutras, also called the scriptures. 1. Sutra, here called original scriptures. 2. Geya, here called praising over again, praising of a sutra in verse. 3. Vyakarana, here called affirmation. 4. Gatha, here called chants, here also called verses other than Geya. They are like the poems and poems of praise of this region. 5. Udana, here called spontaneous preaching without being asked. Sutras which are the spontaneous preaching without being asked. Sacred human beings generally wait to be requested to preach the Dharma, but in this case they become unsolicited teachers of living beings, and so the preaching is spontaneous preaching without being asked. Again, the Buddha Dharma is so difficult to know that it is called unaskable. If it is not preached spontaneously, the many will not know it. in preaching for others. Still again, sacred ones may not know what Dharma to preach for others. Therefore, they preach spontaneously without being asked, in order thereby to manifest preaching so profound that it is only realized in experience. Thus, by means of spontaneous preaching without being asked, sacred ones manifest what is to be disclosed. 6. Nidana, here called accounts of causes and circumstances. Sutras of causes and circumstances aim to clarify the method of the precepts and to show, on the basis of violations, what a transgression is. When the form of a transgression is evident, it is possible properly to establish discipline. This division also, through causes and circumstances, clarifies what is to be disclosed. 7. Avadana, here called parables. 8. Itivrataka, here called past episodes. Here called accounts as they occurred, or called past episodes. 9. Jataka, here called past lives. The events in past lives describe tales of deeds performed in former lives as a bodhisattva. The events in past episodes describe various concurrences in former ages. 10. Vaipulya, here called the exact and the wide. 11. Abhuta Dharma, here called the unprecedented. 12. Upadesa, here called discussion of doctrine. The Tathagata just directly preach for others, Dharma both fictional and factual, such as entry into the world of aggregates. This division is called sutra. Sometimes, with verses of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 words, he praised over again facts such as entry into the world of aggregates. This division is called Gaya. Sometimes he directly affirmed things that would come to living beings in the future, even affirming, for instance, that pigeons and sparrows would become Buddha. This division is called Vyakarana. Sometimes, with independent verses, he affirmed facts such as entry into the world of aggregates. This division is called Gatha. Sometimes, without anyone asking, he spontaneously preached the facts of the world. This division is called Udana. Sometimes he summarized non-virtuous facts of the world in order to consolidate the precepts. This division is called Nidana. Sometimes he used parables to preach the facts of the world This division is called avadana. Sometimes he related the facts of the world in the past. This division is called itivritaka. Sometimes he related the facts of lives received in the past. This division is called jataka. Sometimes he preached on broad and great facts of the world. This division is called vaipulya. Sometimes he preached on unprecedented facts of the world. This division is called abhuta dharma. Sometimes he inquired critically into the facts of the world. This division is called upadesa. These divisions are the realization of the world. For the delight of living beings, the Tathagata established the 12 divisions of the teaching. The names of the 12 parts of the sutras are heard rarely. When the Buddha Dharma has spread through a society, they are heard. When the Buddha Dharma has died out already, they are not heard. When the Buddha Dharma has yet to spread again, they are not heard. Those who, having planted good roots for long ages, are able to meet the Buddha, hear these names. Those who have heard them already will be able, before long, to attain the state of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. These 12 are each called sutras. They are called the 12 divisions of the teaching and the 12 parts of the sutras, because the 12 divisions of the teaching are each equipped with the 12 divisions of the teaching. They are 144 divisions of the teaching. Because the 12 divisions of the teaching are each combined into the 12 divisions of the teaching, they are simply one division of the teaching. At the same time, they are beyond calculation in numbers of below 100 million or above 100 million. They are all the eye of the Buddhist patriarchs, the bones and marrow of the Buddhist patriarchs, the everyday conduct of the Buddhist patriarchs, the brightness of the Buddhist patriarchs, the adornments of the Buddhist patriarchs, and the national land of the Buddhist patriarchs. To meet the 12 divisions of the teaching is to meet the Buddhist patriarchs. To speak of the Buddhist patriarchs is to speak of the 12 divisions of the teaching. Thus Sagan, dangling a leg, is just the 3 vehicles, and the 12 divisions of the teaching. Nangakus, to describe a thing does not hit the target, is just the 3 vehicles and the 12 divisions of the teaching. The meaning of the complete non-necessity which Gensa now expresses is like this. When we pick up this point, The state is nothing but the Buddhist patriarchs, there being no other half-person or single object at all, and is not a single fact ever having arisen. Just at this moment, how is it? We might say it is completely beyond necessity. Sometimes mention is made of the 9 parts, which might be called the 9 divisions of the teaching. The 9 parts: 1. Sutra. 2. Gatha. 3. Past episodes. 4. Past lives. 5. The unprecedented. 6. Accounts of causes and circumstances. 7. Parables. 8. Geya. 9. Upadesa. Because these 9 parts are each equipped with the 9 parts, they are 81 parts. And because the 9 are each equipped with the whole, they are the 9. Without the virtue of belonging to the whole, they could not be the 9. Because they have the virtue of belonging to the whole belongs to each one. For this reason, they are 81 parts. They are a part of this. They are a part of me. They are part of a whisk. They are part of a staff. And they are a part of the right Dharma Eye treasury. Shakyamuni Buddha says, "This, my Dharma of 9 parts, which obediently following living beings I preach, is the basis for their entering the great vehicle, for which purpose I preach this sutra. Remember, the I which is this is the Tathagata, his face and eyes, and body and mind having been revealed. This I as this is already the Dharma of 9 parts, and the Dharma of 9 parts might just be I as this. One phrase or one verse in the present is the Dharma of 9 parts. Because I is this, it preaches obediently following living beings. Thus, all living beings living their life relying on this concrete place is just the preaching of this sutra, and their dying their death relying on this concrete place is just the preaching of this sutra. Even instantaneous movements and demeanors are just the preaching of this sutra. Teaching all living beings, causing all to enter the Buddha's truth, is just preaching this sutra. These living beings are obedient followers of this my Dharma of 9 parts. This obedient following is to follow others completely, to follow oneself completely, to follow the many beings completely, to follow living completely, to follow I completely, and to follow this completely. Because those living beings in every case are an I which is this, They are individual branches of the Dharma of 9 parts. To enter the great vehicle as the basis means to experience the great vehicle, means to practice the great vehicle, means to hear the great vehicle, and means to preach the great vehicle. This being so, we do not say that living beings inherently have attained the truth. They are one bit of it. To enter is the basis, and the basis is right from head to tail. Buddha preaches Dharma, and Dharma preaches Buddha. Buddha is naturally preached by Buddha, and Buddha is naturally preached by Dharma. Flame preaches Buddha and preaches Dharma. Buddha preaches flame, and Dharma preaches flame. In this sutra, already there is good cause for the preaching of purpose, and there is good cause for purposeful preaching. Even if the Buddha intends not to preach this sutra, that is impossible. Therefore, he says, purposefulness preaches this sutra. Purposeful preaching covers the cosmos, and the cosmos is purposeful preaching. Both this Buddha and that Buddha, with one voice, proclaim this sutra. Both our world and other worlds purposefully preach this sutra. Therefore, the Buddha preaches this sutra, and this sutra itself is the Buddha's teaching. Remember, the Buddha's teaching as sands of the Ganges is a bamboo stick and a fly whisk. The sands of the Ganges, as the Buddha's teaching, are a staff and a fist. Remember, in sum, that the 3 vehicles, the 12 divisions of the teaching, and so on, are the eye of the Buddhist patriarchs. How could those who do not open their eyes to these teachings be descendants of the Buddhist patriarchs? How could those who do not take up these teachings receive the one-to-one transmission of the right eye of the Buddhist patriarchs? Those who do not physically realize the right Dharma eye treasury are not the Dharma successors of the 7 Buddhas. Preached to the assembly at Kosho Temple in Yoshu on the 14th day of the 11th lunar month in the 2nd year of Ninji.